लेकिन ये ओल्ड श्रीनगर में है, छोटा बाजार का इलाका है, पुराने घर जो हैं एक दूसरे से सटे हुए हैं। और वहाँ एक मुस्लिम महिला पड़ोसी थी जिसने गंजू साहब को उस ड्रम में चिपते देखा था और उसने टेररिस्टों को इशारा किया, वो टेररिस्ट वापस गए और उसी ड्रम में गोलियों से उन्हें भून डाला एंड दे फोर्स्ड हिज वाइफ टू ईट ब्लड सोक्ड राइस।
While looking at the trailer of the upcoming film The Kashmir Files directed by Vivek Agnihotri, I was left overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. This is a traumatic part of our history which has not been given the mainstream media attention it deserves. We often sing praises of Oscar-winning films that showcase chapters from international history and the most gruesome events that took place. Everything from The Pianist, Life is Beautiful, or even The Auschwitz Report. Movies that have focused on atrocities have got global recognition, as they were events that did take place and were presented with a much-needed sensitivity and research that is essential. January 19, 1990 is considered to be a nightmare for Kashmiri Hindus that were in the valley, who were killed, harassed and made to leave their own homes. A chapter from Indian history that was marred by political and social unrest, and the Kashmiri Hindus were the ones who bore the brunt of all of its ramifications. Termed in history as an exodus, many people correct the description of the events as a genocide and religious cleansing. In 2020, Vidhu Vinod Chopra had directed the movie Shikara that focused on the love story between Shiv and Shanti. The film boasted of some melancholic and beautiful music. It captured Kashmir with such great detail and showcased the performances by the two main leads that would make you think twice that this was their first feature film. But why audiences were left disappointed with the film was because there was a conflict of what was promised to them through the marketing of the movie versus what they actually saw in theatres. The movie was titled to showcase the untold story of Kashmiri Pandits and how they were forced to leave their own state by extremist Islamic forces with heavy influence from political parties across the border. This is exactly what the trailer had showcased. However, the movie was essentially a love story between Shiv and Shanti, and how love conquers all and perseveres despite the ghastly circumstances. The genocide had become the background or subplot of the entire premise, and the relationship was paramount. Events that included the ghastly acts committed against the Pandits, Jammu's contribution being nothing but a footnote, the hardships caused by the Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front seemed to be absent, the death count was merely a statistic leading to the outcome of them leaving the state, the political changes and militant kidnappings caused due to the unrest was never the prime focus. We realized that this was a different film. It was the story of Shiv and Shanti, which was never a bad thing if we were already marketed that. Kashmiri Pandits especially felt shortchanged on what was the eventual outcome and were needing a voice to showcase the actual atrocities that they had experienced. Vivek Agnihotri presents the Kashmir Files as an account of the real events that took place from 1990 and how a community endured such pain, seeks for justice even today, and never took up arms in retaliation. This is a peaceful community that was contributing to the economy of the state plentiful, were highly educated and capable. They live in the current landscape where revisiting the state still gives them trauma of the inhumane acts that they had witnessed. The trailer seems to present characters interacting with one another in the present day while they discuss the events that took place in the Kashmir Valley as the unrest commenced around 1986. The film seems to be a brutal, honest and unapologetic take on what a community endured for no fault of theirs, and I think denying the very existence of a historical event, no matter what your political ideology, with the assumption that it will be adding fuel to the fire of the polarizing world we live in today, would be only representative of one's political ideology stopping themselves from even giving a story a chance. I will be honest about my assessment first of Vivek Agnihotri films and what I find slightly jarring with the way he treats movies, and what I noticed about his film's trailer, the parallels with real life events, and what we can expect from the movie. I am not really a fan of the pitch at which Vivek Agnihotri presents his movies. He always focuses on topics that go against the grain and account for great discourse on various mediums, as he dares to focus on topics that ruffle feathers on certain ends of the political spectrum. But one of the major gripes that I had with Agnihotri's Tashkent Files was the incessant shouting by characters to get their point across. Agnihotri really never dials down the pitch at which he presents his characters and the way they interact with one another, and this is usually aided by a blaring background score to even enunciate the point more. While the topic in itself is extremely noble and brave for a creator to shed light on, I wish that his characters could be more grounded in their interaction. As I see the trailer and especially see the characters of Anupam Kher and Pallavi Joshi are delivering their dialogues, it also becomes clear that he works in absolutes. The events that took place in 1990 in Kashmir being presented in the movie as abhorrent and clearly bad, being presented as black and white is what I expect. And I think there should be no debate around it. I think where Shikara faltered was that they tried to justify people's acts by giving them a backstory on why they took up violent measures. I think that's where the movie faltered. Whereas I think presenting it as black and white and just absolutely ghastly is something that Vivek Agnihotri should do and I think will do. But I hope he doesn't villainize people in the present day who have an opinion of the event. Seeing Pallavi Joshi's character wide-eyed and almost psychotic on her stance on Kashmir makes me think that Agnihotri will present the current left as delusional and in a frenzy of sorts, adding more fuel to the divided and broken structure we already have. What I love about this project and the trailer is the level of research that Vivek Agnihotri has done on the real events that took place in the valley. From the initial interview of a character who is playing the role of Bitta Karate, a man who openly confessed to killing over 20 people, who was out on bail and roaming freely in Kashmir at one point of time and has only recently been arrested on financial terrorism charges. You have the horrible story of advocate Tikla Tapu, philosopher Sarvananand Premi, Justice Neelkant Ganju being executed, Doordarshan director Lasa Kaul, the execution of unarmed Indian Air Force officers, and the horrible story of Girija Tikku. These are events that will send chills down your spine and make you absolutely disgusted of the events that took place in the Kashmir Valley. Agnihotri attempts to showcase the gruesome acts with the same realism that Shujit Sarkar gave to the Jallianwala Bagh massacre in Sardar Udham. If you ever get the opportunity to read the book Our Moon Has Blood Clots by Rahul Pandit, it's the first thing that I did after watching Shikara, and it isn't pleasant but the reality of what many dealt with in 1990. The film is going to be an extremely tough watch. I know that fact very well, but also becomes a necessary tale to tell about a community that endured the pain, moved on, and never got closure or justice.